She was on her knees, crying. Her hands shook as she tried to speak, but no one was listening. They all stood around her, pointing fingers, shouting, insulting her. She was pregnant, helpless, and alone. But she did not know that in just a few minutes, everything was about to change. The man who would turn her tears into victory was on his way, and when he arrived, no one expected what he would do next. Who was this man, and how did one moment of truth change everything? Sit back and find out as we delve into this touching story. The grand living room of the Morgan estate was filled with noise. Not the kind of noise from joy or laughter, but the harsh, cutting noise of anger and accusation. The afternoon sun poured through the tall windows, lighting up the expensive furniture, the crystal chandelier, and the polished marble floor. But none of that beauty mattered now. In the middle of the marble floor, a young woman knelt. Her name was Naomi. She was about 6 months pregnant. Her uniform was plain and worn. Her hair was tied back in a simple bun. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hands trembled as she pressed them together in front of her chest, begging. Around her stood the family. Mrs. Vanessa Morgan, the madam of the house, stood with her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her face was twisted in fury. She wore an expensive silk dress that probably cost more than Naomi earned in a year. Her jewelry sparkled on her neck and wrists. Her lips were painted red, and her eyes were cold as ice. Beside her was her daughter, Bianca, a fashionable young woman in her 20s with perfectly styled hair and designer clothes. She wore high heels and held her phone in one hand, recording the whole scene with a smirk on her face. She looked at Naomi with pure disgust, as if Naomi were something dirty she had stepped on. Behind them stood 2 other maids, Clara and Joy. They whispered to each other, shaking their heads at Naomi. Clara was older, with a sharp tongue and a jealous heart. Joy was younger, always quick to follow Clara's lead. Both of them had never liked Naomi. They thought she was too quiet, too different, too secretive. And now they were enjoying watching her fall. Vanessa's voice cut through the air like a knife. "You stole from me, Naomi. You stole my diamond bracelet." Naomi lifted her tear-streaked face. Her voice was weak, broken. "Madam, I did not steal anything. Please believe me. I swear on my life, I did not take it." Vanessa stepped closer, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. Each step echoed in the silence that followed. She stopped right in front of Naomi and looked down at her with eyes full of hatred. "Liar, you are a liar and a thief. Do you think I am a fool? Do you think I do not know what you are?" Naomi shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Madam, please. I have worked in this house for 2 years. I have never taken anything that does not belong to me. Please, madam, I am begging you." Bianca moved forward, pointing a sharp finger at Naomi. Her voice was high and mocking. "How dare you come into our house and steal from my mother? You should be ashamed. Look at you. Pregnant and jobless. What kind of life is that?" Naomi's shoulders shook as she sobbed harder. She pressed her hands to her belly protectively. "I did not take it, Miss Bianca. Please, I need this job. I have nowhere else to go. No family. No one. This job is all I have." Vanessa laughed bitterly. It was a cruel laugh, the kind that had no warmth in it. "You should have thought about that before you stole from us. You should have thought about your baby before you decided to be a thief." Naomi pressed her hands together again, her voice breaking. "Madam, I am begging you. Please, search my room. Search my things. You will not find anything. I did not take your bracelet." Bianca rolled her eyes and turned to her mother. "Mother, why are you even wasting your time listening to her? She is obviously lying. Let us just throw her out and be done with it." Vanessa nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Naomi. "You are right, Bianca. I have heard enough." Naomi lifted her head quickly, panic filling her eyes. "No, madam, please. Do not do this. I am telling the truth. I swear before God I did not steal from you." Vanessa raised her hand to silence her. "Enough. I do not want to hear any more excuses. You have betrayed my trust. You have brought shame into this house. Naomi, pack your things and leave my house immediately." Naomi's heart sank. She felt like the ground had opened up beneath her. She fell forward, placing her forehead on the cold floor, her whole body trembling. "Please, madam, please, I am 6 months pregnant. Where will I go? What will I do? Please have mercy, please." The other maids, Clara and Joy, exchanged glances. Clara whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, her voice dripping with false concern. "I always knew something was wrong with her. She always acted so innocent, but I could tell she was hiding something." Joy nodded quickly, eager to agree. Yes, she always kept to herself, never talked to us properly, always acting like she was better than us. Now we know why." Naomi lifted her head and looked at them, her eyes pleading. "Clara, Joy, please, you know me. You know I would never do something like this. Please tell them." Clara turned her face away, her lips pressed tight. Joy looked down at the floor and said nothing. Vanessa's voice cut through again, sharp and final. "Get her out of my sight. Now." 2 security men stepped forward. They were big, strong men in dark uniforms. They grabbed Naomi by her arms and lifted her roughly to her feet. She cried out softly, her hands going to her stomach protectively. "Please, be careful, my baby, please." But they did not listen. They dragged her through the living room, past the expensive furniture, past the large windows that overlooked the beautiful garden, past the paintings on the walls, and out through the front door. Bianca followed them, still holding her phone, still recording. She laughed as Naomi stumbled on the steps. "This is what happens to thieves in this house. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks they can steal from us." Naomi stumbled as the guards pulled her down the stone steps. Her legs felt weak, her vision blurred with tears. The iron gate stood tall in front of her, black and heavy. The guards pushed her out roughly and slammed the gate shut behind her with a loud clang. Naomi stood on the other side, holding the bars, looking back at the house. Her voice was barely a whisper, "Please." But no one came. The house stood silent, beautiful, cold. Naomi turned slowly, her whole body shook. She looked left, then right. The street was busy. Cars passed by. People walked quickly, focused on their own lives. No one stopped. No one looked at her. She walked a few steps and then her legs gave way. She sat down on the pavement, right there in front of the gate. She wrapped her arms around herself and cried quietly. The sun was hot overhead, sweat mixed with her tears. Her throat was dry. Her heart felt broken into 1,000 pieces. Naomi whispered to herself, her voice filled with despair. "What will I do now? Where will I go? God, please help me, please." Her mind raced. She had no family. Her father had died 3 years ago. She had no friends in the city, no money saved. She had left her village 2 years ago to find work. This job was all she had. And now it was gone. She placed both hands on her belly and felt her baby move inside. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "I am so sorry, my baby. I am so sorry. Your mother has failed you." Suddenly, the sound of a car engine broke through her thoughts. A sleek black SUV pulled up slowly in front of the gate. The engine hummed softly before it stopped. The car was expensive, shiny, clean. Naomi looked up, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She squinted against the sun. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, well-dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers. His shoes were polished. His watch gleamed in the sunlight. His face was handsome, strong, but there was something soft in his eyes. His name was Elijah Morgan. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. She recognized him immediately. He was the son of the late Mr. Morgan, the original owner of the estate. He had been away for months on business. Elijah's eyes locked on Naomi. He saw her sitting on the ground, her face wet with tears, her hands trembling, her pregnant belly visible beneath her uniform. His jaw tightened, his eyes filled with concern and something else, anger. He walked quickly toward her, his steps firm and purposeful. "Naomi." His voice was gentle but firm. Naomi looked up at him, shocked. Her lips trembled. "Sir Elijah." He knelt down beside her without hesitation and placed a hand on her shoulder gently. "What happened? Why are you sitting out here? Why are you crying?" Before Naomi could answer, the gate suddenly opened with a loud creak. Vanessa came rushing out, followed closely by Bianca. Vanessa's face changed the moment she saw Elijah. The anger melted into a fake smile. She opened her arms. "Elijah, my son, you are home. We did not know you were coming today." Elijah did not look at her. He kept his eyes on Naomi. His voice was calm but cold. "Why is she outside the gate?" Vanessa's smile faltered slightly. She straightened her back and spoke in a firm voice. "She stole from me, Elijah. She stole my diamond bracelet. I had no choice but to send her away. You know I do not tolerate thieves in this house." Elijah slowly stood up. He was taller than Vanessa. He looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "She stole from you?" Vanessa nodded confidently, crossing her arms. "Yes, I have been very patient with her, Elijah, very patient. But this time she went too far. She betrayed my trust." Bianca stepped forward, her voice sharp and accusing. "Elijah, you should not waste your time with her. She is just a thief. A liar. Look at her sitting there pretending to be innocent. She deserves everything she got." Elijah's eyes darkened. He looked from Vanessa to Bianca, then back to Naomi, who was still sitting on the ground, her head lowered. Without a word, he bent down and gently helped Naomi to her feet. His hands were careful, supporting her weight. She winced slightly, her hand going to her belly. Elijah noticed immediately. His face softened even more. He looked at her with deep concern. "Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" Naomi shook her head quickly, not wanting to cause more trouble. "No, sir, I am fine." But Elijah could see the truth in her eyes. Vanessa's eyes widened in disbelief. She took a step forward. "Elijah, what are you doing?" Elijah did not answer. He wrapped his arm around Naomi's shoulders protectively and guided her toward the gate. Vanessa stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Her voice rose. "Elijah, stop. Why are you helping this mad woman? She stole from us. She is a thief. She does not deserve your kindness." Elijah stopped. He looked at his stepmother with a gaze so sharp, so cold, it made her take a step back. His voice was quiet, but the command in it was absolute. "Move aside." Vanessa hesitated. She had never heard Elijah speak to her like this before. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Slowly, she moved to the side. Elijah walked Naomi through the gate, past the guards who stood frozen, unsure of what to do, and up the stone steps into the house. Bianca ran after them, her heels clicking rapidly on the ground. "Elijah, what is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? She does not deserve your help. She is nothing. Just a maid, a pregnant thief." Elijah turned his head slightly, his voice like ice. "Stay out of this, Bianca." Bianca stopped in her tracks, shocked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She stood there, her mouth open, as Elijah continued walking. He led Naomi through the grand hallway, past the expensive paintings, past the antique vases, and into the living room. The other maids, Clara and Joy, stood frozen near the staircase, watching with wide eyes. Their mouths hung open. They could not believe what they were seeing. Elijah guided Naomi to the large, soft sofa and helped her sit down carefully. He knelt in front of her, his eyes searching her face. "Are you hurt? Tell me the truth." Naomi shook her head, tears still streaming down her face. "I am fine, sir. Thank you." Elijah's jaw tightened. He could see the pain in her eyes, the exhaustion, the fear. He stood up slowly and turned to face the others. Vanessa, Bianca, Clara, and Joy all stood in a line, staring at him. Marcus, Vanessa's son, had also come downstairs. He stood at the bottom of the staircase, his phone in his hand, watching with confusion. Elijah's voice was low but filled with authority. Each word was clear, deliberate. "If anyone in this house ever tries to humiliate her again, I will not tolerate it. Do you all understand me?" Vanessa's mouth opened in shock. She found her voice, though it trembled slightly. "Elijah, you cannot be serious. She is a thief. We have every right to—" Elijah raised his hand, cutting her off. "I said, do you understand me?" The room fell into heavy silence. No one dared to speak. Clara looked at Joy nervously. Joy looked at the floor. Bianca crossed her arms, her face red with anger, but she said nothing. Marcus simply raised an eyebrow and went back to scrolling through his phone. Vanessa's lips pressed into a thin line. She nodded stiffly. "Fine." Elijah looked at each of them one by one. making sure they understood. Then he turned and walked toward the staircase. Vanessa called after him, her voice rising with frustration. "Elijah, we need to talk about this. This is not right. You are making a mistake." He did not stop. He did not even look back. He climbed the stairs and disappeared down the hallway. The sound of a door closing echoed through the house. The room fell into heavy, uncomfortable silence. Vanessa looked at Naomi with burning eyes, her fists clenched at her sides. Naomi lowered her head, unable to meet her gaze. Vanessa took a step closer, her voice low and threatening. "This is not over, Naomi. Do you hear me? This is not over." Naomi said nothing. She kept her eyes on her hands, folded in her lap. Vanessa turned sharply and walked away, her heels clicking angrily. Bianca followed her mother, throwing one last disgusted look at Naomi before disappearing up the stairs. Clara and Joy exchanged nervous glances. Clara whispered harshly, "What just happened?" Joy shook her head. "I do not know, but something is very wrong here." They both hurried out of the room, leaving Naomi alone. Naomi sat on the sofa, her hands resting on her belly. She let out a slow breath. She whispered softly, her voice filled with relief and confusion, "Thank you, God, thank you." But even though Elijah had defended her, she knew the storm was far from over. She could feel it in the air, heavy and dark. That evening, the sky turned dark. Clouds covered the moon. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels heavy, like something is waiting to happen. Naomi sat in her small room at the back of the estate. It was nothing like the grand rooms upstairs. It had a single bed with a thin mattress, a small wooden wardrobe with peeling paint, and a cracked mirror on the wall. There was one small window that looked out at the garden, but the view was blocked by overgrown bushes. The light bulb above flickered sometimes, casting strange shadows on the walls. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Her mind was full of fear, full of pain, full of secrets she could not share with anyone. She placed both hands on her stomach and whispered softly, "I am sorry, my baby. I am so sorry you have to go through this. I am so sorry." A soft knock came at the door. Naomi lifted her head quickly, her heart racing. She stood up slowly, her hand going to her chest. "Who is it?" A familiar voice answered, "It is me." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She rushed to the door and opened it slowly. Elijah stepped inside. He was still wearing his white shirt, but he had rolled up the sleeves. His face looked tired, but his eyes were full of concern. Naomi stepped back. "Sir, you should not be here. If they see you—" Elijah closed the door behind him gently and locked it. "I do not care what they see." He walked toward her, his face full of concern. Naomi's eyes filled with tears again. She could not hold it in anymore. Elijah reached out and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Naomi broke down completely, sobbing against his chest. Her whole body shook. Elijah stroked her hair softly, whispering, "I am sorry, Naomi. I am so sorry you had to go through that today." Naomi shook her head, her voice muffled against his shirt. "You do not have to apologize. You saved me. You brought me back inside. Thank you." Elijah pulled back slightly and looked into her eyes. His own eyes were wet. "Yes, I do have to apologize. I should have defended you openly. I should have told them the truth right there. I should have exposed them today." Naomi placed her hand on his cheek gently. "No, Elijah. It is not time yet. We agreed. We have to wait until everything is ready." Elijah's face was pained. He clenched his fists. "How much longer can you endure this? They treat you like you are nothing, like you are trash. I hate seeing you like this. I hate that my own family is doing this to you." Naomi took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "I can wait, Elijah. I have been waiting for years. I can wait a little longer. We are so close now. Everything is almost ready. Just a little more time." Elijah nodded slowly, though his heart was breaking. I know. But every time I see you cry, every time I see them insult you, it tears me apart." Naomi wiped her tears and tried to smile. "We have to be strong, for our baby, for the truth. Soon, Elijah. Soon everything will be fine." Elijah kissed her forehead gently, then her lips. He held her close again, feeling her belly press against him. He placed his hand on her stomach and felt the baby move. A small kick. Elijah's face softened. He is strong. Naomi smiled through her tears, just like his father. Elijah stayed with her for a long time, holding her hand, whispering words of comfort, telling her about the progress he had made. He told her about the documents he had gathered, the people he had spoken to, the evidence he had collected. Naomi listened quietly, her heart filling with hope. When it was very late, Elijah finally stood to leave. He kissed her one more time. "Just hold on a little longer. I promise you, this will all be over soon. And when it is, we will never hide again. We will be together openly, as husband and wife." Naomi nodded, her eyes shining. "I will wait for you, Elijah. I will always wait for you." Elijah left quietly, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Naomi sat back down on the bed. She placed her hand on her belly again and whispered to the baby inside. "Just a little longer, my baby. Just a little longer. Your father is a good man. He will make everything right." She laid down slowly, staring at the ceiling. Sleep did not come easily, but eventually exhaustion took over. Meanwhile, upstairs in the grand master bedroom, Vanessa paced back and forth like a caged animal. Her silk robe flowed behind her as she moved. Her face was tight with anger. Bianca sat on the bed, filing her nails, trying to look calm, but her eyes were sharp. Vanessa's voice was sharp, frustrated. "I do not understand what is wrong with Elijah. Why is he defending that girl? What hold does she have over him?" Bianca shrugged, not looking up from her nails. "Maybe he feels sorry for her because she is pregnant. You know Elijah. He always had a soft heart." Vanessa stopped pacing and turned to face her daughter, her eyes narrowing. "Sorry? Elijah does not do anything out of pity. He is smart, calculated. There is something else going on here, something we do not know." Bianca looked up now, interested. "What do you mean?" Vanessa walked to the window and looked out at the dark garden. The trees swayed in the wind. Shadows moved in the moonlight. "I mean, there is something about that girl, something Elijah knows that we do not. He did not just defend her, he brought her back inside. He threatened us. That is not normal." Bianca stood up and walked over to her mother. "So what do you want to do?" Vanessa's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "I want to find out what is going on. I want to know why Elijah is protecting her, and when I find out, I will use it against them." She turned to Bianca, her voice cold. "Watch her closely. Talk to the other maids. Find out everything you can about Naomi, where she came from, who she really is. Everything." Bianca nodded slowly, a smile creeping onto her face. "I will. Do not worry, Mother. If there is a secret, I will find it." Vanessa nodded, satisfied. "Good. That girl is hiding something, and I will uncover it." In another room, Elijah sat at his desk. The room was dark except for the small lamp on the table. In front of him were files, documents, and photographs spread out like pieces of a puzzle. He had been working on this for months, gathering evidence, following leads, uncovering the truth. His stepmother thought she was clever. She thought she had hidden her past well. But Elijah had found everything. He picked up a photograph. It showed a young Vanessa, much younger, maybe in her 20s. She was standing with a man and two small children. The man looked poor, his clothes worn. The children were little girls, maybe 3 and 5 years old. Vanessa was smiling in the photo, but it was a different smile, not the fake, polished smile she wore now. This was real. Elijah stared at the photo for a long time, his eyes tracing every detail. Then he picked up another document. It was a marriage certificate, Vanessa's first marriage, to a man named Joseph Adewale, married in 1998. Elijah flipped through more papers. Bank statements, hospital records, police reports, each one told a piece of the story. A story of betrayal, of abandonment, of murder. Elijah's hands clenched into fists. He whispered to himself, his voice filled with cold determination. "Soon, Vanessa, very soon, everyone will know what you really are." He placed the documents back in a folder and locked it in his desk drawer. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. He thought of Naomi, of her tears, of her pain. He thought of their baby. He whispered softly, "Just a little longer, Naomi, just a little longer." The next morning, Naomi woke up before the sun came up. Her body ached, her back hurt, her legs felt heavy, but she forced herself to stand. She washed her face with cold water from the small bucket in her room. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror. Her eyes were still swollen from crying. Her face looked tired. She whispered to her reflection, "You can do this, just a little longer." She put on her uniform, tied her hair back, and walked slowly to the main house. The morning air was cool. The sky was just beginning to turn light. Birds were starting to sing. As soon as she entered the kitchen, she felt the cold stares. Clara and Joy were already there, preparing breakfast. They did not greet her. They did not even look at her properly. Naomi walked to the sink quietly and began washing the dishes from the night before. The water was cold. Her hands trembled. Clara whispered to Joy, just loud enough for Naomi to hear, "I still cannot believe she is back, after what she did." Joy nodded, her voice also loud enough to carry. "Elijah must have gone mad. Why would he bring a thief back into this house?" Naomi said nothing. She kept washing, scrubbing each dish carefully. Her heart hurt, but she did not show it. A few minutes later, Vanessa walked into the kitchen. She wore a silk robe and her hair was perfectly styled even this early in the morning. She looked at Naomi with sharp, calculating eyes. Naomi felt the stare but did not turn around. Vanessa's voice was cold, sharp. "Naomi?" Naomi turned slowly, drying her hands on a towel. "Yes, madam." Vanessa walked closer, her eyes scanning Naomi from head to toe. "Make sure the floors upstairs are spotless today, every corner, every inch. And do not touch anything that does not belong to you. Do you understand?" Naomi lowered her head respectfully. "Yes, madam." Vanessa stared at her for a long moment, as if trying to read her thoughts. Then she turned and walked out, her robe flowing behind her. A few minutes later, Bianca entered the kitchen. She wore designer pajamas and held her phone in one hand. She did not even look at Naomi. She sat down at the breakfast table and spoke without looking up. "Make me a smoothie, mango and strawberry, and make sure it is cold." Naomi nodded quietly. "Yes, Miss Bianca." She moved around the kitchen, gathering the ingredients. Her hands moved automatically. She had done this 100 times before. When she finished, she poured the smoothie into a tall glass and placed it on the table in front of Bianca. Bianca picked it up, took one sip, then made a disgusted face. She pushed the glass away. "This tastes terrible. Did you even add sugar?" Naomi's voice was soft. "Yes, Miss Bianca, I added sugar." Bianca stood up, her face full of annoyance. "Well, it tastes like garbage." She picked up the glass and poured the entire smoothie into the sink, right in front of Naomi. The liquid splashed everywhere. Bianca wiped her hands dramatically. "Make it again, and this time do it properly." Naomi stood there, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. She took a slow, deep breath. Her chest felt tight, but she said nothing. She simply nodded. "Yes, Miss Bianca." Bianca walked out, still looking at her phone. Clara and Joy snickered behind Naomi's back. Clara whispered, "She deserves it." Joy laughed quietly. "She thinks she is special just because Elijah helped her, but she is still just a maid." Naomi turned and looked at them. Her eyes were calm, but there was something in them that made both women stop laughing. Naomi did not say a word. She simply turned back around and began making another smoothie. But inside she whispered to herself, "Just a little longer. Just a little longer." Days passed slowly. Each day felt like a test. Naomi continued working, cleaning the floors, washing the dishes, cooking the meals, enduring the insults, enduring the cold looks, enduring the whispers. But she did not break. She kept going. She kept waiting. Whenever Elijah was home, he would find small moments to check on her. A glance across the room, a nod in the hallway, a brief touch on her shoulder when no one was looking. Each small gesture gave Naomi strength. One afternoon, Naomi was cleaning the upstairs hallway when she heard voices. She stopped and listened. It was Vanessa and Bianca talking in Vanessa's room. The door was slightly open. Bianca's voice was excited. "Mother, I found something." Vanessa's voice was sharp, interested. "What? What did you find?" Bianca lowered her voice, but Naomi could still hear. "I talked to one of the security guards. He told me that Elijah has been going to Naomi's room at night." There was silence. Then Vanessa's voice, cold and calculating. At night? Bianca continued. Yes, several times. He stays there for a long time, then leaves very late. Vanessa laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. It was dark. So that is it, Elijah and the maid. How interesting. Bianca's voice was full of malice. What should we do? Vanessa was quiet for a moment, then she spoke slowly. Nothing. Not yet. Let us watch them. Let us see how far this goes, and when the time is right, we will use it. Naomi's heart pounded. She stepped back quietly and hurried down the hallway. She went straight to her room and sat on the bed, her mind racing. They knew, or at least they suspected. She had to tell Elijah. That evening, when Elijah came to her room, Naomi told him everything she had heard. Elijah's face darkened. They are watching us. Naomi nodded, fear in her eyes. Yes. What do we do? Elijah took her hands. We move faster. I was planning to wait another week, but we cannot wait anymore. I will do it tomorrow. Naomi's eyes widened. Tomorrow? Elijah nodded firmly. Yes, tomorrow I will expose them. I have everything I need. It is time. Naomi felt a mixture of fear and relief. She squeezed his hands. Are you sure? Elijah looked into her eyes with absolute certainty. I am sure. This ends tomorrow. He kissed her forehead and left quietly. Naomi sat alone in her room, her heart pounding. Tomorrow. Everything would change tomorrow. She placed her hand on her belly. Tomorrow, my baby. Tomorrow, everything will be different. The next evening came faster than expected. Elijah came home earlier than usual. He walked into the living room where Vanessa, Bianca, and Marcus were sitting. Vanessa looked up, surprised. Elijah, you are home early. Elijah did not smile. His face was serious, cold. He held a large brown envelope in his hand. I need to talk to all of you, now. Marcus glanced up from his phone, annoyed. About what? Elijah placed the envelope on the table with a heavy thud. About the truth. Vanessa's face changed slightly. She tried to keep her voice steady, but there was a hint of nervousness. What truth, Elijah? What are you talking about? Elijah opened the envelope slowly. He pulled out several documents and laid them on the table one by one. Photographs, letters, medical reports, legal papers, bank statements, each one carefully arranged. Vanessa's face went pale. She stood up slowly. Elijah, what is all this? Bianca leaned forward, her eyes scanning the documents. What is going on? Elijah's voice was calm, but there was steel in it. This is proof that Vanessa poisoned my father. The room went completely silent. Marcus dropped his phone. It clattered on the floor. Bianca's mouth fell open. Vanessa took a step back, her hand going to her chest. Elijah, that is a lie. That is a terrible lie. Elijah did not flinch. He picked up one of the documents and held it up. No, Vanessa, it is the truth. This is my father's autopsy report. The real one, the one you tried to hide. It shows traces of poison in his system. Arsenic, to be specific. Vanessa shook her head violently. That is impossible. Your father died of a heart attack. The doctor said so. Elijah placed another paper on the table, his movements deliberate. This is a bank statement showing large payments you made to a man named Dr. Okoro, the same doctor who signed my father's death certificate without proper examination, the same doctor who lied about the cause of death. Vanessa's hands began to shake. Her voice rose. Elijah, you do not know what you are talking about. Elijah's eyes were cold. I went to Dr. Okoro myself. I confronted him, and after some persuasion, he confessed everything. He told me you paid him $50,000 to cover up the cause of death. He told me you threatened him. He told me everything. Bianca looked at her mother in shock, her voice trembling. Mother, is this true? Vanessa's face twisted. Bianca, do not listen to him. He is lying. He is trying to turn you against me. Elijah continued, his voice relentless. I am not finished. He picked up a photograph. The old one, showing young Vanessa with a man and two little girls. Elijah held it up for everyone to see. Before you married my father, you were married to another man, a poor man named Joseph Adewale. You had 2 daughters with him. Vanessa's eyes widened with shock and fear. Her voice was barely a whisper. Where did you get that? Elijah ignored her question. When you left Joseph, you took one daughter and one son with you, Marcus and Bianca. But you left one daughter behind with her father. You abandoned her because she reminded you of your poverty. He placed the photograph down slowly and looked directly at Vanessa. That daughter you left behind is Naomi. The room exploded. Bianca gasped loudly, her hand covering her mouth. Marcus stood up, his face full of confusion. What? What are you saying? Vanessa stumbled backward, her legs weak. She grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. No, that is not possible. Elijah's voice was steady, unshakable. It is not only possible, it is the truth. Naomi is your daughter, Vanessa. Your own flesh and blood, and you did not even recognize her. Bianca's voice was shrill, panicked. This cannot be true. This cannot be true. Elijah nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Vanessa's face. It is true. After you left, Joseph tried his best to raise Naomi alone. But life was very hard. He worked day and night just to feed her. He sent her to school with the little money he had. And Naomi grew up watching her mother live in luxury while she suffered in poverty. Vanessa sat down heavily on the sofa, her whole body shaking. Her voice was weak. Naomi is my daughter? Elijah's voice softened slightly, but only slightly. Yes. And when I started investigating you, trying to find out the truth about my father's death, I went back to your village. That is where I met Naomi. She told me everything, how her mother abandoned her, how she never knew what happened to her family, how she struggled every day just to survive. He paused, letting the words sink in. Naomi did not know you were her mother when I brought her here. I did not tell her at first. But when I showed her your photograph, she recognized you immediately, and she broke down. Vanessa looked up, tears forming in her eyes for the first time. She knew? She knew I was her mother. Elijah nodded. Yes, and still she agreed to come here as a maid. Do you know why? Vanessa shook her head weakly. Elijah's voice was cold again. Because I asked her to. Because I needed someone on the inside. Someone I could trust. Someone who would help me gather the final pieces of evidence against you. He picked up another document. And Naomi did. She watched you. She listened. She reported everything to me. And together, we uncovered the full truth. Bianca's voice was filled with anger now. So you used her, you brought our sister here and made her a maid just to spy on us? Elijah's eyes flashed. She is not your sister, Bianca, not in any way that matters. You and your mother abandoned her. You lived in luxury while she starved. You have no right to call her your sister. Marcus finally found his voice. Wait, so Naomi is our sister, and mother killed Elijah's father? Is that what you are saying? Elijah turned to Marcus. Yes, that is exactly what I am saying. He picked up more documents, spreading them across the table. Vanessa met my father at a business event. She saw that he was rich, successful, and alone after his wife's death. She seduced him. She made him fall in love with her. And within 6 months, they were married. Vanessa's voice was barely audible. I loved him. Elijah's laugh was bitter. You loved his money, and when you realized that my father's will left everything to me, you decided to speed things up. You could not wait for him to die naturally. So you poisoned him, slowly, over several months. Small doses of arsenic in his food, in his drinks, until his body could not take it anymore. Vanessa covered her face with her hands, sobbing now. Bianca stood frozen, unable to process everything. Marcus sat back down, his face pale. Elijah's voice was relentless. My father died in pain, alone, confused. He did not understand why his body was failing him. And all that time, you were there, pretending to care, pretending to love him, while you killed him. Vanessa's voice came out in broken gasps. I had no choice. He was going to change his will. He was going to leave me with nothing. Elijah's eyes blazed. So you killed him? Vanessa said nothing. The silence was her confession. Elijah pulled out his phone. I have already contacted the police. They will be here soon. You are going to jail, Vanessa, for murder. Vanessa's head snapped up, panic filling her eyes. No, Elijah. Please do not do this. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please. Elijah's face was like stone. You should have thought about that before you destroyed so many lives." Just then, the door opened slowly. Everyone turned. Naomi walked in. She was no longer wearing her maid's uniform. She wore a simple but beautiful dress. Her hair was down, flowing over her shoulders. Her face was calm, but her eyes were filled with deep emotion. Vanessa turned and saw her. For the first time, she truly looked at Naomi. Really looked. The shape of her face, her eyes, the way she stood, the small scar on her left eyebrow. Vanessa's breath caught. She recognized that scar. She had been there when Naomi got it as a child, falling off a chair. Vanessa's knees buckled. She fell to the floor, reaching out toward Naomi. "Naomi? My Naomi?" Naomi stood a few feet away, her hands resting on her belly. Her voice was soft but firm. "Yes, mother, it is me." Vanessa crawled toward her on her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Naomi, my daughter, I did not know. I swear I did not know it was you. Please, please forgive me." Naomi looked down at her. Tears filled her own eyes, but her voice did not shake. "You did not know because you never looked. You were too busy enjoying your stolen life, too busy pretending to be someone you are not." Vanessa reached out her hand, trying to touch Naomi's leg. "Please, Naomi, I am your mother, please." Naomi took a step back. Her voice was steady. "You stopped being my mother the day you walked away and never looked back. The day you chose money over your own child." Vanessa sobbed harder, her whole body shaking. "I was young. I was foolish. I made a mistake. Please, please give me another chance." Naomi took a slow, deep breath. She looked at Elijah, who stood silently watching. Then she looked back at her mother. "I forgive you, mother." Vanessa's eyes lit up with hope. Thank you, my daughter." But Naomi raised her hand. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do not want to carry hate in my heart. I do not want my child to be born into bitterness." She paused, her voice growing stronger. "But forgiveness does not mean I will forget, and it does not mean I want you in my life." Vanessa's face crumpled. "Naomi, please." Naomi shook her head slowly. "I do not want to live with you. You are dangerous. You killed a good man. You abandoned your own child. You are not the kind of person I want around my baby." She turned to Elijah. "I want them to leave." Elijah nodded. He looked at Vanessa, Bianca, and Marcus. "You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave this house." Vanessa looked up in horror. "Elijah, please. This is my home." Elijah's voice was final, absolute. "This house belonged to my father. It is now mine. And I am telling you to leave, all of you." Bianca found her voice, anger mixing with desperation. "You cannot do this. We have rights." Elijah pulled out another document. "According to my father's will, this house and all his assets belong to me. You have no legal claim. None." He looked at his watch. "You now have 59 minutes. Marcus stood up slowly. He looked at his mother, then at Elijah, then at Naomi. For the first time, there was shame in his eyes. He walked toward the stairs without saying a word. Bianca hesitated, then followed him, tears streaming down her face. Vanessa remained on the floor, staring at Naomi. Naomi looked down at her one last time. "Goodbye, mother." Then she turned and walked away. Elijah placed his arm around her shoulders, guiding her out of the room. Vanessa remained on the floor, broken, crying. Exactly 1 hour later, Vanessa, Bianca, and Marcus stood at the front gate with their suitcases. They had packed only what they could carry. No jewelry, no expensive clothes. Elijah had made sure of that. Everything they owned had been bought with stolen money, and he was keeping it all. Elijah stood at the door, watching them. Naomi stood beside him, her hand in his. Vanessa looked back one last time. Her eyes met Naomi's. There were no words left to say. She turned slowly and walked through the gate. Bianca and Marcus followed, their heads down. The gate closed behind them with a heavy final sound. Naomi let out a slow breath she did not know she had been holding. Elijah squeezed her hand gently. "It is over." Naomi nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of relief. "Yes, it is over." Elijah looked down at her belly, then back at her face. "Now we can start our life together. Properly, openly, as husband and wife." Naomi smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Yes. Elijah led her back into the house, but this time she did not go to the small room at the back. He took her upstairs to the master bedroom. The room was beautiful, filled with light, with soft colors, with peace. Naomi walked into the room slowly, looking around in wonder. Elijah watched her with a soft smile. "This is your room now. Our room." Naomi turned to him, her eyes shining. "Elijah, I do not know what to say." Elijah walked to her and took both her hands. "Say you will marry me, officially, in front of everyone." Naomi's tears flowed freely now, but they were happy tears. "Yes, yes, I will marry you." They held each other tightly, both of them finally allowing themselves to feel the relief, the joy, the freedom. In the weeks that followed, Naomi slowly healed. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift. Elijah made sure she had everything she needed. He hired a doctor to check on her regularly. He bought her new clothes, beautiful clothes. He treated her with respect and love. Naomi's belly grew bigger, her face began to glow. She was no longer a maid, she was Elijah's partner, his equal, his love. They were married in a small private ceremony, just the two of them, a pastor and 2 witnesses. Naomi wore a simple white dress, Elijah wore a black suit. When the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," Elijah kissed her softly, and Naomi felt like she was finally home. 1 month later, Naomi went into labor. It was early morning. Elijah rushed her to the hospital, holding her hand the entire time. The labor was long and painful, but Elijah never left her side. He whispered words of encouragement, wiped her forehead, held her when she cried out. Finally, after many hours, a baby's cry filled the room. The doctor smiled. "It is a boy, a healthy baby boy." Elijah's eyes filled with tears. Naomi was exhausted, but she smiled. The nurse placed the baby in her arms. Naomi looked down at her son. He was perfect, tiny fingers, tiny toes, a head full of dark hair. She whispered, "Hello, my baby, I am your mother." Elijah leaned down and kissed her forehead, then looked at his son. "He is beautiful, just like you." Naomi smiled through her tears. "What should we name him?" Elijah thought for a moment. "Joshua. It means God is salvation." Naomi nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Joshua, yes, that is perfect." They stayed in the hospital for 2 days. When they finally came home, the house felt different. It felt like a real home now, full of love, full of hope, full of life. Meanwhile, far away in a small, run-down apartment on the edge of the city, Vanessa sat on a worn-out mattress. The walls were cracked. The ceiling leaked when it rained. There was one small window that looked out at a dirty alley. Bianca sat beside her mother, staring at the cracked ceiling. Her designer clothes were gone. Her jewelry was gone. Everything was gone. Marcus leaned against the wall, his face tired and empty. They had nothing. The money was gone. The house was gone. The status was gone. The respect was gone. Vanessa whispered, her voice hollow. "How did we end up here?" Bianca did not answer. She had no answer. Marcus looked at his mother, his voice flat. "We lost because we were greedy, because we were cruel, because we forgot that every action has consequences." Vanessa closed her eyes, tears leaked from the corners. She thought about Naomi, about the daughter she abandoned, about the life she threw away. She whispered into the empty air, "I am sorry, Naomi. I am so sorry." But her words floated away, meaningless. Back at the Morgan estate, Naomi sat in the garden, holding baby Joshua in her arms. The sun was warm, the flowers were blooming. Birds sang in the trees. Elijah sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Naomi looked at her son, then at Elijah, then at the beautiful house behind them. She whispered softly, I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would have all this." Elijah kissed her temple. "You deserve all this and more. You suffered, you endured, you waited, and now everything is yours." Naomi smiled, rocking Joshua gently. "No, everything is ours." Elijah smiled back. "Yes, ours." They sat together in the garden, a family now. Complete, happy, free. Naomi had been insulted, she had been beaten down, she had been humiliated. But she never gave up. She waited for the right moment. She held on to the truth. And when that moment came, the truth set her free. Life teaches us something very important through Naomi's story. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most will one day stand before you, powerless. Sometimes the ones who throw you out will watch from a distance as you rise higher than they ever imagined. And sometimes the one who sees your worth when no one else does becomes the one who changes your whole life. So never stop believing in yourself. Never stop holding on to truth. Never stop waiting for your moment. Because when your time comes, no lie can stand. No evil can win, and no injustice can last forever. Your day will come, and when it does, those who laughed at you will fall silent. Those who mocked you will bow their heads. And those who loved you will stand by your side forever. What do you think about Naomi's journey? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to read from you. And my wonderful viewers, there is another very interesting story coming in a few days. So please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you will be notified immediately I upload the next story. If you enjoyed this one, do not forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.